Football at 4 is brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort and the Gallery Bar Booking Games, the place to be inside Ocean Casino this football season. Go to the Gallery, go to Ocean, go for the win. For more information, visit oceanac.com, and that's where we are broadcasting live today on this Monday afternoon in the Fanatic Sportsbook in the Gallery at Ocean Casino Resort. Nick Earnshaw alongside PG filling in for the world traveler himself, Mike Gill. He's on a boat cruise. He just sends us during the break that he's on a boat cruise, so hopefully he's having a good time on vacation. But now we are going to go to Jeff P. Mosher. We got to enter him into the principal's office.
I remember that from last week. Yeah.
So we got to enter him back in. It's Football at 4, brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort. Jeff, good to talk to you today. The big news today is that Landon Dickerson's injury, he gets hurt during the open practice, and he comes out today. Adam Schefter reports it is a meniscus injury. So, with that being said, we don't know how much time it is going to take for him to come back. However, we'll see if he can get it going and get back on the field as soon as he can. Jeff, what do you make of the Landon Dickerson injury?
Not good, especially when you hear knee and meniscus, and I know all the Sixers fans have probably heard enough about that to want to hear that about Landon Dickerson. Now, the meniscus is tricky, fellas. I remember Todd Harriman's once had a trim done, and he missed a game. Then the Eagles had the bye week, and then I think they played on like a Monday night the week after that or Sunday night, and he played in that game. So between like incision to game, it was like 3-week recovery there for Todd with the bye week mixed in, and he was fine. And that's why Landon's probably getting this second opinion to figure out, can this be done with a trim? Is it more than that? Is it a partial tear? Is it a full tear? I'm no doctor and I'm no expert, but I think you guys know when someone seeks a second opinion, it's usually because they're not really happy about the first opinion. So it looks like, if this could be the case where Landon Dickerson could be out for weeks and maybe months, depending on what kind of feedback he gets.
Yeah, and the reporting was kind of bland. All it was from Adam Schefter today was it's a meniscus injury to the right knee. So not a ton of information there. However, we know he will probably miss some time. And, Jeff, what does that look like for the Eagles on the line? What kind of shuffling can they do? Who do you believe steps in to Dickerson's role here moving forward? Do they go into free agency? Do they use guys they already have on the roster? I mean, they look good at the first preseason game. There was a lot to like from some of those guys. Just talk to me about what you believe the Eagles could do here.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to go dip into the free agency just yet until they really understand the length and severity of the injury. So to sort of answer backwards first, let's say they find out he's out for the year, or it's a really long time. Yeah, you could see them maybe signing a guy like Brandon Scherf or Shaq Mason out there. I mean, because those are some guys who played some really good football in their careers. But, the Eagles do what they've always done, which is stockpile offensive linemen for scenario like these. Tyler Steen has played really right guard. It's not even been a company. He had an excellent block, really, with linebacker flowing downhill on that 38-yard run by Will Shipley. But he's also played left guard. So theoretically, you could move him to left guard, and you could play Matt Pryor at right guard. Matt Pryor has played right tackle. He's played right guard last year for the Bears, and I actually think he's played better this time around with the Eagles than he did when he was first with the Eagles, interestingly enough. I think he's had a decent camp. So could he hold down right guard while Tyler Steen moves to left guard? Yeah, that's a possibility. Or you just keep Tyler Steen at right guard and then maybe try to play Pryor at left guard. They drafted Trevor Keegan last year. He is really a natural left guard, but I just, they're having him work on the third team. He's been trying to play center as they look for another guy who can snap the ball. I don't think it's gone all that well for him. Drew Kendall is a kid that they drafted he's a center. He was a center at Boston College, right? Obviously everybody's focusing in on the trade that brought Kenyon Green in. But, my eyes are telling me right now that Kenyon Green is not the answer. And unless he has some kind of Patrick Robinson 2017 turnaround in camp, I don't think that he is even going to make the 53-man roster. But There are several weeks left for them to figure this out. Those are all basically the options that are there. There's two ways to look at this thing. You could say in 2017 they won the Super Bowl with Steph Wisniewski stepping in the left guard and Vaitai stepping in at left tackle. I mean, they were down two guys, stepped in, and they won the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. I'm old enough to remember days like 2010 where they lost Jamal Jackson at center. They lost Max Jean Gillies, who's already a backup. He lost, and they were down really badly there and got killed by the Cowboys, I think it was, at the end of the year and in the playoffs. So they have a good infrastructure. But to me, Nick and guys, it's like racing one guard, right? And then to lose maybe another guard, that just shows you go into the season with almost no margin of injury error for the rest of your offensive line.
Yeah. And being at the game on Thursday night, Jeff, my sight was seeing Kenyon Green just on the sidelines, hand on his hips, holding his helmet for half the game. So not a lot of faith there in Green. But going back to Thursday's game, two guys I wanted to talk to you about, the receiver side, Johnny Wilson and Darius Cooper. Cooper on the bubble of making this 53-man roster. And really you can mention Jahan Dotson. He had a pretty good first couple series with McKee in there. But Cooper and Wilson, talk to me about those two guys.
Yeah, so two totally different guys. I mean, Johnny Wilson is 6'6", and what I really like is two things. First of all, response to adversity. I don't think he had a great first 3 or 4 practices of camp, specifically with using his body, especially in the red zone, right, and in the end zone as a shield or to go over taller defenders and bring the ball in. But ever since then, I thought he's had a nice response, practiced well, started catching the ball better, and you saw in the preseason game, certainly a lot of really not only nice catches, but usage. That's the number 2 thing that stands out to me. They're playing a lot in the slot. They're playing them in reduced splits, which means you're not lined out all the way by the numbers. That allows you to sometimes have two-way goes. It allows you to do a lot of crossing routes, rub routes, creating space in traffic. And I think Kevin Patullo has done a nice job with that so far. And you saw a big connection between McKee and Johnny Wilson was sort of that slot fade where he did capitalize on his height over the smaller defenders. I think it's really tough when you have a 6'6" receiver to figure out where this guy fits best. You want to put him out at the X because he's like a big, tall, physical receiver? Okay, but those guys don't tend to be very fluid and they tend to have stiffer hips, and it's hard for them to reverse direction. DK Metcalf is sort of like a dinosaur or a unicorn, but even he struggles sometimes to throttle down. So a 6'6" guy is going to have real issues there. And at the same time, it's tough to put them in the slot because they don't have that fluidity that you see those smaller slot receivers tend to have. But they're figuring it out. They're finding ways to get him open, and we'll see if that can continue throughout the preseason and the regular season. Now, the other kid's a totally different story. Rookie free agent out of, you guys all know Tarleton State, great college team. We watch him every Saturday. He probably plays, in front of 1,500 people in college? I don't know. I don't want to speak out of place, but I think it's really amazing for him to come into this environment. And what I like about him compared to other guys in the past that I would call those training camp darlings who do it in camp, but then they disappear, is that he's not doing any one thing amazingly, like plucking the ball out of midair or doing anything flukish, sort of like Hank Baskett, circa 2006. He's getting a lot of targets. He's getting open. He's catching the ball. He's doing it with the second team, and recently he's gotten some first-team run and special teams, which shows you that the coaches believe in him, or they at least want to see what he can do when he really plays with the top guys on the line. So our top guy starters. So I'm interested to see how his preseason progresses.
Can the Eagles keep both those guys, and how much does Jalen Hurts kind of have influence on a spot like that? When it gets down to it, keeping Cooper or Wilson.
None. No offense to Jalen Hurts. I know fans like to think that, fans like to think that if Howie signs a defensive player that Vic Fangio must have signed off on it or said it was a good signing until he came out and said, sometimes Howie signs guys that I don't even watch tape of, like Adoree Jackson. So
right.
It'll be Howie Roseman's decision. Can they keep 6 receivers? Yeah, sure. You can keep 11 receivers, but then you have to go, only keep 1 tight end or 2 running back. It's all a numbers game. I think the difficulty, to your point, Pete, is that the top 3 guys are locked in with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jahan Dotson. And you've got to like what you've seen so far from Johnny Wilson and Anaya Smith with the punt return. That would be 5 right there. So what value are you getting from Darius Cooper as your 6th receiver? You got to be a special teamer mostly. You know, you honestly, I feel bad for these guys because usually their production on offense and or defense doesn't really matter. It's can they play and master on special teams. Patrick Johnson 2 years ago had a great camp. He led the team in sacks and hurries, tackles for a loss. He made the team, but he never played because he made the team because he's a very good special teamer. And that's probably the case with Cooper. If he's ever going to be something, we'll find out most likely 2 or 3 years down the road.
Jeff, I want to stick with wide receiver. One guy that's definitely going to have a role on this team and has had a really good summer is Jahan Dotson. Made a nice catch at the open practice the other night from Jalen Hurts. And I want to know, is he going to have an extended role? He didn't get a full camp with the Eagles last year. This year he does. Do you think he's going to have more of a role in this offense heading into the season?
I appreciate that question, Nick, because I just rattled off like a 10-minute answer on wide receivers, and you still want to talk wide receivers.
I do.
So I guess I did not bore you guys. I was getting worried about that.
At least he's a Penn State guy.
Yes, that's true. It is a great question because of who he is and his skill set.
Right.
Makes it a little bit difficult. He is not a natural slot wide receiver. He has played there.
Yep.
At Penn State, he played there a little bit. But when you're talking about having A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, A.J.'s your X, Devontae is your move Z, you would love for a natural sort of Jason Avant-like slot wide receiver or Nelson Aguilar slot wide receiver who's just comfortable there. So because he's not, what they do is they run their alignments differently. I talked about those reduced splits. They play the receivers tighter to the line of scrimmage and then run a variety of routes off of that. So that is where they'll probably continue to work Jahan Dotson in, where you'll see him trips right with Devontae and maybe Johnny Wilson or a flex tight end. And then you'll see like this traffic jam of routes, which is designed to get guys open because Jahan really doesn't win enough in enough positions on the field by himself to say, you are my starting XYZ. You know what I'm saying? So that's how they have to do it creatively with him. And they've managed to do it in the past. I think to your question, though, once everybody's healthy and they play a game and you got targets to AJ, got targets to Devontae, you got targets to Dallas, I just don't know how – and you're going to throw the ball a little bit more probably to Saquon or Shipley. I don't really know on a per-game basis how much more we're talking about for Jahan.
Defensively, Jeff, Ringo, Bennett, and Adoree Jackson, where do things stand with those three guys? They did not have a good showing against Cincinnati and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. And how important are these joint practices coming up this week with Cleveland for that for that CB2 job?
Isn't it? Do you guys ever get a laugh just listening to Vic Fangio? And he's talking about Adoree Jackson, and he said, he's a guy who can really grow and learn from this. And I'm like, this guy has played 8 years.
He's a top pick.
This is his ninth year as a first-round pick, and his coordinator is telling him he can learn and grow from this. And by the way, that way he even said it earlier in camp. Oh, he's continuing to grow and learn. Is
this like a Bryce Huff situation all over again, or
I don't think it's that bad. Yeah, okay. It's not that bad.
Yeah,
I think Adoree Jackson can play and give you a baseline level of competition out there. But to Vic's point, it's not like anybody's just jumping out there and stealing this job. It's a hard defense to learn. They do in their zone principles. It's called match, carry, deliver, where you're playing zone, but you may have man coverage in your area of the zone until you carry and deliver that receiver or tight end, right, to a different zone, and then somebody else picks him up. That stuff is hard to learn overnight. So I think that's the challenge that Adoree and now Ja'Cory Bennett face. It should favor Kelee Ringo year 2. I think he's got to calm down and just play a little football, and make the tackle when it's there. I thought that was the worst play over the back shoulder. The back shoulder, you know how many good cornerbacks give up a back shoulder to Jamar Chase? I mean, he didn't track the ball well, but to me, it was the rushed bad tackle that led to the touchdown. Right. That was Kelee Ringo, right? Yeah, that was the issue. But there's a lot of time here. I know it seems like there's not, but there's still several weeks.
Jeff, I want to stay on the defensive side of things and the interior defensive line, whether it's Ty Robinson, Byron Young, Gabe Hall. They get rid of Thomas Booker. I thought Vic's answer was interesting on Saturday. He said, are they where they need to be? No, but they're coming along, and hopefully that will continue. Who do you think's coming along at this point, and who do you think will rise after Thomas Booker being traded for Bennett?
Yeah, I mean, that just shows you Vic's standard, right? I mean, I have yet to hear Vic say, man, this guy's arrived. This guy is really playing at an elite level. Maybe he said it about Jalen Carter, but probably in the middle of last year, I think he said it. When everyone was asking about playing all these snaps, right? So you have to kind of read between that. But I do think, to his point, and you, sometimes we always say on Inside the Birds, the answers to the test are right there. If you guys remember, if you guys were awake and actually watching it, and I applaud you if you were, in the fourth quarter of the preseason game on Thursday night, on the last third down for the Bengals, Ty Robinson and Gabe Hall were executing an inside stunt, right? A TT stunt, I believe. Which, I mean, how often do you see guys who are playing in the first quarter also playing in the fourth quarter? But Vic is very adamant about getting time, getting reps. He's always making fun of people, I think on his own team, maybe, who think practice is not as important or want to truncate practice. So I do really think that when he talks about that, he means Ty Robinson is a rookie, and he's probably swimming a little bit and needs snaps. Gabe Hall needs snaps. I mean, clearly the guys who didn't play are guys he's comfortable with, right? So I do think Robinson will work his way into the rotation at some point. Now, I like what I've seen from Gabe Hall.
At the open practice, I know Drew McCombs teamwork. Sidney Brown was a little banged up in that preseason game. Where does it stand in the secondary at safety? I know a lot of fans and listeners have concerns about the safety position. Where are we at with Makuba's development? I know he was hurt a little bit. He was banged up. Where are we at there with safety?
Yeah, it's a big week. It's a big week for both of them with the Browns coming into town. These two practices, and not just these guys, but a lot of them, but they're going to treat these two practices like the game. They're going to script everything, which is the beauty of the joint practices. They're going to go through every down and distance scenario they want to see, red zone, goal line, first down, backed up, and they're going to go at it with the Browns because that's what you do in joint practices. So it's a really big week, Nick, for Sidney Brown and for Makuba. I give Makuba some credit. He returned to practice. They didn't play him in the preseason game. I think they wanted to make sure he's 100% for this week. But he did come to practice, what was that, Tuesday, right? And he participated in the drills and thought he did a good job. You know, he gave up a touchdown to Goddard, who jumped up in the air and plucked it out of the air. It wasn't like it was bad coverage. Broke up another pass. He did look to me like he was still like not 100%, so I give him a lot of credit for getting out there. And I think this week, Nick will be big because if I were to shoot up everybody on the coaching staff with truth serum, inject them with that, I think they would tell you, they would say they want Makuba to win the job. He's more versatile. He's the type of guy that can flourish in Vic Fangio's system. But it's not like Sidney Brown has played poorly. You heard Vic say he's still trying to recognize things a little quicker. And this week will be a perfect opportunity to do that against a defense that's going to, against an offense that's going to show him stuff that he's not been seeing for the last 2 weeks.
And I also want to talk about Cooper DeJean just real quick because there's been people texting in regarding DeJean. Could he move to the outside if they don't like what they see from Bennett and Ringo and Adoree Jackson, really don't grab that second cornerback spot? Is there any chance at all that DeJean could move to the outside? I know they want to use him in nickel. They want to use him at safety, linebacker, whatever it may be. They want to utilize all of his skill sets all over the place on defense. Is there any chance he could ever play outside corner? They could use him there at some point?
You know, it's funny, when they drafted him last April, right, 2 Aprils ago, they drafted him with the idea that he'd eventually be an outside corner.
Right.
That's a fact. That is something that I know for a fact. But just because that's what they intended then doesn't mean the defensive coordinator has to agree or do it. And no one's going to say, Vic, you don't do that, right? So Vic did this spring. Vic practiced him, at least in one of the OTAs we watched, at outside corner. Practice him at safety, and Vic for right now has decided that if he is going to play a position along with nickel, let's get the facts out first. He's going to be the nickel corner, and they're going to play nickel 80% of the time. So the conversation we're really having is about these other snaps where the 5-man front's on the field, right, run down, and they're only playing 4 defensive backs, 2 safeties. Yeah, it looks right now like they want to see Cooper DeJean in that spot. And to your question, that might have something to do with the uncertainty going on right now at the other safety spot, and that Makuba himself is a little undersized, and already Sidney Brown has struggled with injury. So maybe this helps take the workload off him by not having him out there in the base defense. That doesn't mean the door is closed on Cooper DeJean playing outside corner anytime down the road. But based on what we've seen in practice, I don't think we've seen him play outside corner in base at all. So now I'll go back to last year. I'm sorry, I'm being very long-winded.
That's okay. That's why we're here. It's football at 4, Jeff. We're having a lot of fun. You're in the principal's office once again.
It might get to be football at 5 in a minute. If I keep going.
That's okay. I could talk football all day. We're getting so close.
It's preseason, Moshe. We're all a little rusty. It's okay.
But good. We're all in preseason form. If you go back to last year, Quinyon Mitchell was the nickelback for like the first week or two of camp until Cooper DeJean came back, and then he felt comfortable moving Quinyon to outside corner, and then it just took off from there. But it is, I mean, all throughout the OTAs and for the first, I want to say 2 weeks of camp, Quinyon Mitchell was the slot cornerback. Nobody remembers that now.
I did not remember that at all.
Right. So we've obsessed over the last 2 weeks about Cooper DeJean playing safety, right? Who knows? Could something change with this outside corner situation that makes Vic rethink it? Sure. But for now, the facts are he's base safety and nickel corner or nickelback.
Last one for me, Moshe. Jiad Campbell. He only played 15 snaps on Thursday night. Maybe they're just trying to not give him too much on his plate at one time. Where did things stand with Campbell? Do you think he'll be starting come week 1?
Yeah, you know how they tell rookies if you're going to make a mistake, make it at 100 miles per hour? And just go play 100 miles per hour. Well, you saw that. I mean, he's trying to get downhill on a run. He gets his hands on a guy's face. He sort of gets blocked. That's rookie. Right. Yeah. But then, if you guys remember, there was that pass over the middle. Andre Sam hits the receiver, and the ball goes up in the air. And this is like 15 yards downfield, right? And who's diving to try to come up with the interception? Yeah. Jiad Campbell. And I'm like, wow, he came from pretty far away to get there. That shows you his athleticism, and it shows you why – they want to give him every opportunity to get on the field. But Vic's not going to play him if he doesn't think he's mentally ready, if he knows how to use his body the right way, if he doesn't over-pursue. Sidney Brown last year, hair on fire, plays great, hits anything that's in front of him, but he was not assignment sound. So Vic's going to play the assignment sound guy. But if Jiad Campbell continues to progress and shows that he'll be – and this is a big week for him too, I think, then he'll get that job, but he's got to show it.
Jeff, thanks so much for joining us today for Football at 4. I know you're excited. The summer's almost over. We're getting closer to football season. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're still in preseason form here, and Mike, he's a world traveler now, so we'll let him be for a couple more days.
That guy.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we'll just thank you so much for joining us at Jeff P. Mosher on the Twitter X platform. Thanks again.
All right, guys, have a good one. Thanks.